Hey everyone, Cadaver Kelly here, and it's been a while since I've done a music theory video with a focus in genre categorization. So in this video, I want to talk about one of my absolute favorite subgenres to discuss, and that is Darkwave. I love listening to Darkwave, I love talking about Darkwave, so I've spent a lot of time over the years trying to understand it. I think there's a lot of confusion surrounding this particular category of music, and I do think we're in a period of time where it is splitting into even more categories. Music genres tend to do that when the pool of music in that category grows larger and larger. It will split into further categories, so we have our bite-sized little boxes to put this music into. In a lot of different music communities, people love to debate genre categorization endlessly, and goth is no exception. We tend to get very passionate about the music we love, and sometimes these genre debates can get very heated and tiring very fast. So I just want to remind everyone that genres, subgenres, and styles of music are just a system of organizing it and are meant to be helpful. We use genres to categorize the movies we watch, the literature we read. It's why libraries use the Dewey Decimal System. So back to Darkwave. I was recently quoted in an article about Darkwave by Play Alone Records where I said, I generally define Darkwave as being either dark post-punk or goth rock that incorporates synth-pop elements into the mix. I'll link that article in the description for anyone who wants to check it out. This has been how I've thought about Darkwave for a very long time, but in recent years with more and more music coming out, my thoughts are starting to evolve with it. At this juncture, the music I tend to place in the Darkwave category could really be placed into two separate categories that I somewhat touched on in the Play Alone Records article. The first is goth rock blended with synth-pop elements. When I say goth rock, I'm talking about that second and third wave style goth rock that was kicked off by the Sisters of Mercy in the 80s and carried on into the 90s with bands like Rosetta Stone and Nosferatu. When you add synth-pop elements into the mix, you get one of these two styles of Darkwave. Two examples of bands who do this are Paralyzed Age and She Passed Away. It's a great sound and it has a lot of energy behind it, as far as goth music goes, that is. The second style that I tend to throw under the Darkwave umbrella is more of a dark first wave style post-punk that, like the first category, also blends synth-pop elements into the mix. So instead of the goth rock that the prior category uses, it's taking more cues from 70s and 80s post-punk. This style also tends to lean more heavily on synth than the other, or at least that's the way it sounds with the mellow guitars compared to the more hard rock leaning guitars of goth rock. One band who was playing this style of music in the 80s was Clan of Zymox. Although I'm guessing at the time they were probably just looped under the new wave category because there wasn't enough music that was taking this darker approach in that category at the time. From my research, the term darkwave wasn't thrown around much, at least in the US, until the 90s. Lately, we've been seeing more and more bands coming out that use this more post-punk style of darkwave, like Twin Tribes, Boot Blacks, and Push Button Press. Jim from Push Button Press has even mentioned to me that one of his greatest influences is Joy Division, so it's no surprise that their music contains sounds that are reminiscent of early dark post-punk. Obscura Undead has made reference to this subset of Darkwave as a distinct style that they have coined Gothwave. I'll link Obscura Undead's description of Gothwave in the description. I highly recommend you check out Obscura Undead's website. They also have a YouTube channel that is fantastic for music news. So what's common between these two styles of Darkwave is that they are both dark in sound. This usually comes from the music being in the minor key on a descending scale, and they blend synth-pop elements into the mix with very effects-heavy, reverberated, or delayed synth. The difference lies in the rock elements that each respective style is using, where one is leaning on more energetic, harder goth rock, while the other is using more relaxed, atmospheric post-punk. The former style is almost always referred to as Darkwave, while the latter style has been referred to as a number of names, including both Darkwave and Gothwave. The goth community tends to have a general consensus that the former category is goth, whereas with the latter category, there doesn't seem to be agreement across the board on whether all bands in this category count as goth. These debates on whether bands like Boot Blacks or Drab Majesty are goth usually come down to the production mix, specifically prominence of synth versus guitar. In the past, I've referred to these bands as goth adjacent, but really I could have gone either way. I just felt like I had to kind of like draw a hard line since I was making videos that were meant to be for beginners to help them understand. I didn't want to get too nuanced and confuse someone who's just starting out with goth music and darkwave. But really, in my opinion, that level of hair splitting isn't really productive. I can see validity in both arguments, but it's pretty granular. These bands are certainly in the scene and have all the elements of darkwave present. Boiling it down to choices in the production mix that may have been the doing of an audio engineer and not even the musicians themselves seems a bit contrived. That's at least at this juncture in time. More music could come out that gives me a better perspective, of course. But for now, that's not a hill I'm going to die on. Now I'm in this weird place of whether to keep grouping all of this music under one darkwave umbrella or to consider them two respective subgenres in their own right. I'd love to hear feedback from the community. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Do you think this is all darkwave? Do you think of it as two different styles? Let me know. If you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up because that helps the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.